Good morning. Welcome back to The Digressor. This is Trevor, and I have a very special guest today, again, because this is actually the first episode I've recorded with Abigail, but it's the fourth one you've heard. No, third one. I've changed the order, Abigail. I've changed the order. Taylor Swift is going to be in part 2 because I realized we're going to talk about serious stuff. So, yeah. So this is the third time Abigail's been on the show, but the first time we've recorded. The timeline is all messed up. Anyway, say hi, Abigail.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back for the first time, because I the recording out of order made sense at the time, but now that I'm actually in the moment, I'm like, So now, like, we can't reference things. Like, people are going to be like, "Oh, Abigail's back on." Now they're going to reference things they talked about in the other episodes. Like, nope, this is our first time. Good times, good times. But yeah, something that you and I have talked about, but I haven't said on here yet, even though the audience has probably heard it now, because again, the timeline's out of whack now. The multiverse, darn you, Loki, and is Abigail and I we've been friends for a while. We met because podcasts, and every time we talk, we add another episode that we're going to be in together. For a while, I was like, remember when I first approached you with it? I'm like, so would you like to be in one of my episodes? And you're like, heck yeah. I'm like, eventually there was like 4 episodes in. I'm like, okay, you're in 4 episodes. Emery was in 4 or 5 episodes across 3 seasons. You're in that many in 1, so you're pretty special.
I feel special.
You are. Anyway, so I'm tempted to say, hey, tell them about your podcast, but this is the third time they've heard. You know what? Overexposure is not a bad thing. Tell them about your podcast.
Okay, so I have 2 podcasts. The first one is the Manic Pixie Wierdo, which most of you might know me from, and it's a podcast where we talk about all the different kinds of relationships that you can have in your life, from Avengers to math to, wrestling to pretty much anything that you can think of that you can have a relationship with. That's what we talk about. And the other one is Best Idea in the Room, where me and my co-host Brian Perkins, we rate and review commercials. So check both of them out.
I like both your podcasts, but that other one, it feels interactive because you'll talk about a commercial, then I'll literally look it up and watch it on YouTube, and then it's kind of interactive like that. So sometimes most of the commercials you'll talk about I've never even seen, so it's like I don't know what y'all are talking about. And then like other ones are like so famous, it's like I can picture it without even having to look it up.
Yeah, we have a
like
blast.
the Chili's one, it's like that Chili's one is so iconic. As soon as you said Chili's, I'm like, I know which one you're talking about. But yeah, and your main show, it's I love the progression of it. So your show, like, it started out as, I'm not good at wording. I'm not good at explaining things to people. I try to explain that to people, but well, and so your show started off my favorite. I think even you have a lot of great episodes, but even now, I think I've told you many times, I think my favorite episode you've ever done was the casino one.
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
mom. And I think she's my favorite guest you've had on. And yeah, I think just like the feel of that episode and like I don't know, but like one thing I love about your show is how it'll take like a topic and like I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, but like because once you're in the moment you blank out. Um
Yeah, of
and
course.
you go like surprisingly deep with it. Like I'm thinking like actually hang on, I have to actually look up episodes because this is why spelling bees. People are like, of course, spelling bees are so easy. You can spell anything. That's why is that so hard? But then you get in the moment. Spell cat.
I
Circle.
get it.
Batman
Yeah, I
symbol.
totally get it. Oh my gosh, I suck at spelling.
I'm not good at spelling. Okay, relationship with terms of engagement, or like the purpose one. Like at that point, actually, let me go back. The some of the there's one in particular that really surprised me. I think what the okay, I don't really plan ahead. You know this. We've talked about that. We wing it. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, like I'll see the name of the episode. And I'm like, huh, this would be a fun episode. And then you get into like philosophical and like existential, and I'm like, I can't deal with this right now. And then like I read the title for the I read the title for the my relationship with purpose, and I'm like, oh dear God, what are we doing? And sure enough, by the end of the episode, I'm questioning everything.
Yay, that's so good though. That's like I love that.
Yeah, and like I love how like you get like really deep. Like I love listening to you talk because yeah, and then like even just talking with you live, like we've had so many conversations like it in Twitter spaces and even phone calls where like that one day I didn't even realize we were talking for 3 hours.
I know. Oh my gosh. Time
You
just
remember?
like flies.
Yeah, it was like it was so fun. And then it was like, so it probably been about 45 minutes, 3 o'clock. It's like, wow, you're so easy to talk to, and we just click right away, and I love that.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
Yay. But anyway, so the I had an idea for this episode, and I wasn't even. I mean, I think I accidentally misled you when I told you how I came upon you for this episode. I had an idea for the episode because I was watching a video about American propaganda, about like how and Imre and I were talking about how like we were taught different things from what like we were both taught totally different histories, and like I had things excluded and they had things that were like explained upon, and like other countries have different histories, and I'm like it's like propaganda. So I'm like I'm gonna do an episode on that. And then I heard the episode of what space that you did a few weeks back when y'all were talking about this sort of thing, and I'm like, hey, I know who would be a perfect guest.
Oh, yay.
Yes, and so now I'm talking to the audience. It's like that we're talking about American propaganda, and you're like, yeah, I know that. That's why I agreed. And so so what we mean by American propaganda is we actually had a conversation on how we were going to approach it because there's an endless list of ways we could approach this because all of them were correct too because yeah, but we decided to focus on the education system because that's kind of where it springs from. Like I have so many stories of me learning the truth about history, trying to tell people about it, and they were like, "That is a lie!" Blah, 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 blah. History revisionist. So, no, no, it's not a revisionist. You got the revisionist version.
Oh, yeah.
So for this episode, I figured we would basically talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, the education system in the United States is just like super broken. And I do think that a lot of that stems from like the way that we teach, especially subjects like history. And because we just like, we conveniently leave out like a whole bunch of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I'm nodded in an audio format.
I do that all the time. But I mean, it's just really eye opening once you like begin to sort of realize all of the different like elements and all of the different ways that like you know it has been revisionist, like you were saying, and it it is conveniently omitted. It's omitting. So some people are a little bit like um like some people don't think that omitting things is a lie. Like it's and that's feels like a lot of times in like especially history class. And I mean, it really goes into all of the different sort of subjects that you learn, like even in your core subjects. Um, but I really, really think that it's really dominant in like history classes. I didn't really sorry, excuse me. I didn't really get a lot of like revisionist history until I entered like high school. That was really when like history became sort of like it opened my eyes to what all of the different like facets of um, the lying through omission began. And I actually ended up, especially through like my whole education, I ended up with pretty good series of like history teachers and professors that really just like made you think and like tried really hard and like their best to sort of open all of the doors and answer all of the questions. It wasn't until I had like one that I can specifically think of, like one history professor that it was just very like by the book. This is just what it is. Like there's no deviating from this. And I can I curse?
I'd rather you not.
Okay.
I forgot to address that.
No, no,
No,
no,
yeah.
it's totally fine. I was like that problem child like in school. Like I was the one that like was just an agent of chaos and just like definitely uh started things that didn't necessarily need to be started and probably weren't like appropriately in context. Started like in the middle of class, I would just ask really random ridiculous questions. And I remember I had a professor one time and I was like, so how do you know, like how do you know for sure that this is like the accurate form of history? And he was like, well, we know because it was written down. And I was like, so you just like trust what these people like say? Okay. That was never like, that's who I was. Like I was that kind of a kid. And it caused a lot of problems for me, especially in my like academic career. Uh until I really like got to college and stuff. But especially like when I was younger, it like really caused a lot of problems because I was just that kid that would just ask all of these like really ridiculous questions. And I didn't think they were ridiculous. I thought I was asking like good, legitimate questions, like, how do you know this is an accurate form of history? And it it really opened my eyes when I asked that question and I got like the smart aleck response back, that because it was one of those things where it was like that answer was not good enough for me. Like I just kept pushing. It like that line of questioning did not stop there. I just kept pushing. And I could tell from like an outside perspective, like especially from my classmates, like I was just being that really annoying, like smart aleck kid. But it these were questions that I really wanted to know the answers to, and nobody could give them to me. And so I ended up having to like go out on my own and like finding the answers to all of these questions. And I remember feeling very lied to and very, not disenfranchised, but very, just very lied to and very upset about like the things that I would find out about history and like things that we were being taught and how it wasn't accurate. And I think that I know we're talking about American propaganda, but that's really where it started for me, that like my eyes started to begin to open to like I kind of put these magic glasses on that the universe had sort of like given me at a really young age. And it just really opened my eyes to all of the different ways that like we're being lied to. Does that make sense? Am I just
Well,
rambling?
yeah, no. Well, see, the thing is like, because like I know from like listening to your podcast, what it sounds like you're rambling, but like you're still making coherent sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, because like I'm listening to your podcast and like it does sometimes it does sound like you're rambling on, but like I follow along, I get what you're saying, and it makes total sense, and I can't wait. I don't want you to stop. That's what I meant to say. Like I can't wait for you to not stop. That's how I was originally gonna word that. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, I know what you
I
mean.
get it.
I I got in trouble sometimes too for simply asking questions. I told you about it the other day. Some of the things I'm gonna repeat what I said into space is they kept, because you and we uh well, I forgot if you said I grew up in the 90s. I don't remember if you said you grew up in the 90s.
I was born in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay. I was 88.
I was 93.
Oh, I was in kindergarten. Anyway, so I grew up like immediately after the Cold War ended. Fall of the Berlin Wall, blah, blah, blah. And so like they even back then they were pushing like communism is bad, communism is bad. That's all they said. Communism is evil. And so like I remember in high school one day, it was in the early 2000s, with my entire life, I never knew what communism was. I just knew it was bad. I knew it was evil. You know, that country over there is bad because they have communism. America saved the day because they got rid of communism. And so one day I just asked, I was like, what's communism? Why is it so bad? Oh, it's communism is bad because it's evil and it's it's a horrible system, and it's like, but why? And finally
Right.
I
Never
got,
a satisfying answer.
yeah, it's kind of got going in circles, and eventually I got sent to the principal's office for like undermining the teacher. It's like, no, I just want these, and like I told you and what I told everyone, the education system in America, they don't teach you how to think, they teach you what to think.
Yeah, they do. They really do. And that's, I think, by
Yeah.
design.
My actually I gotta see. I asked somebody last night if I could share their story because something happened to them yesterday that fits perfectly. Um, so a friend of mine, I have two stories. A friend of mine, her son, when he was in preschool, this was years ago. This isn't what I was just talking about. Um, he was his son, her son was okay. My friend's son was in preschool. That's where they got distracted. And you know that board thing that has like the shapes, and you put like the cube in the square peg, the cube in the square hole, and the cylinder in the circle hole, all that. Uh, he was playing around with that, and he realized that everything fit into the square peg, into the square hole. And he got excited. Like, what else fits in there? He's sticking like Hot Wheels in there and all sorts of stuff, and like troll dolls and all sorts of things. And so, he's having a good time. He's learning. He's finding out like all the stuff he can do. And when my friend went to go pick him up at the end of the day, they pulled her aside and was like, "You need to get your son tested. We think he has mental issues." Like, no, he's smarter than the other kids. It's like that's the world, that's the society we're living in, where and like the intelligent kids who like figures literally outside of the box, the other kids would have been like trying to like why isn't this fitting into the arch? It's like we only had to put the arch fits into the arch, the cylinder fits into this. It's just like that, you see that TikTok recently where it was funny, that girl is like, you know what I'm talking about. She was like, if it's in the circle, yes, you're right, it goes into the
Yeah.
squirrel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that was funny, but that was him. But like obviously that one was a joke. But That's what they want us to be as a society. It's her. It's like, no, it goes into the circle. And yeah,
It's
go ahead.
yeah, it's just very this is the one way that it has to be done. This is how it's done. This is how it's always been done. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I am so just like, this is part of the reason why I think I'm a robot, but like I just don't think that way. Like that's just not how, like, so like when you were talking about like why is communism bad? Like that concept never made sense to me, because it's like, because to me it was always like, well, but why? Why is it bad? Why is socialism bad? Like what are these other forms of government that we have? Why do we have to do it this one way? Like you can't tell me that like other countries use other forms of government and they're all bad. Like just because they don't do it our way doesn't mean that it's wrong. And I think that has a lot to do with the way that I was like raised and like growing up. Um, but I just never got satisfactory answers, and it just continued to stem. And it really opened my eyes to like what American propaganda is, and what that like, where it begins and where it sort of falls into like various and sundry categories. And I mean, it's kind of like the whole "Make America Great Again" slogan. Like that
Yeah.
slogan never really made sense to me either, because it was like, well,
Again,
great again for who?
it was
Great
never
again for
great. Yeah,
who? You know what I'm
the whites,
saying? Like it's
obviously.
like, no. You have to be like rich, white, and a man. Like if you are any other
Yes.
demographic, then it does not apply to you. If you are not like a super wealthy, rich white man, then that slogan does not apply to you.
Yes. So you've stopped taking your blue pills, haven't you? You've went off and took one of those red pills.
No, I took purple. I was like, both.
Yeah, both. Yeah. You wanted to see what would
Why
happen.
choose?
Yeah, that's clever. I
Yeah.
never thought of that. What happens if you take both? It's like, oh, okay, I see what happens if you take both. You see the reality, but you
It's
doubt
like
if it's
purple.
actually happening. And okay, so the other thing that happened just the other day is a friend of mine, her son, talked about this. You know what I'm going to say. He took the STAR test, which we didn't have the STAR test when I was in school. There was the tax test and then the TOS test. I hated them both because
And then the
all year,
toss test.
yes, and then like all year, some of the teachers, they weren't even teaching us because I don't know if I said this in the episode. Abigail and I grew up in Texas, so we're both Texas people. And so anyway, if you're in another state and you're like, what? I never heard that. The T stands for Texas. And so I think could be teaching. I don't know. I know they're only in
Yeah.
Texas, but the whole year for most of these classes, they would not focus on teaching us things. They would be like, all right, we need to get our tax scores up, our TOS scores up, because they're pretty low for this region. And so they would focus on getting the standardized test scores up, but not really teaching us anything. And so that was just the introduction to what I'm about to say. That's setting the stage for the people who don't know about all of that. So a friend of mine, her two kids are like, they're 10 and 11, and they're two of the smartest kids I know. They're like, I'm having like full grown adult conversations with them, and they're asking me like really intelligent conversations, and I'm like, you're stumping me over here. I have to go do some research before I answer you. And so her 10-year-old, he took the STAR test and he failed it, and he's having to do summer school, and he's like really depressed right now because they're making him feel like he's an idiot. And I even told him, like, you're not, you're like I can guarantee you're the smartest kid in your class. And he feels that way because they made him feel that way because he failed some standardized tests. And he even said himself, they didn't go over a lot of the stuff that was on the test.
Yeah. First rule of first thing that you need to know about like the star. It originally was like the tax test, and then it became like the toss test, and it's changed so many different times over the years. Like
It's
it's
basically
ridiculous.
it's the same thing. They just changed the name.
Yeah, essentially,
It's totally
because that's what
different.
needs to be fixed. Right,
we
because
changed
that's what needs to be fixed.
we changed the logo.
For
Totally different.
real. Um, but it's a standardized test, much like the SAT or like the ACT. Now, if you're anything like me, I suck so badly at taking standardized tests. Any sort of multiple choice testing like that, my anxiety just like gets the better of me, and I cannot like focus. I can't, I get really like nervous. I mean, my parents used to tell me like anytime I was taking any sort of multiple choice test at all, like, because I would go in to any sort of standardized testing, and I would do like my first answer to whatever the question was would be correct, and then I would go back because they would always be like, well, you have to make sure you check your work. And I would go back, and as I was checking my work, I would get very overwhelmed and very anxious, and I would second guess myself, and I would erase the correct answer and change my answer, and you could see on the tests where I did that. And so many times growing up, I had to have so many teachers that would be like, just go with your first answer, like just go with your first answer because it's right. And everybody could see that I picked the correct answer first. But because everybody was like, go back and check your work, I would go back and check my work, and I would completely erase it. And it was a nightmare. I hate standardized testing. So if you're anything like me,
Yes.
you're not good at standardized testing, those tests suck so bad for you.
Yes, I'm not good at tests at stuff like that. And I hate that they use stuff like that and like job interviews. Like if you fail a job interview, you're going to be bad at work. Like no, I'm not good at these kind of things. Like the job interview should be like, okay, you're going to be lifting merchandise and moving it. So I'm going to have you do that as an interview, not asking you a bunch of questions. But yeah, I tried joining the military twice after high school. I tried joining the Air Force in the middle of 2016, and I took the ASVAB. And I got all like every section. I got like scored high, but then like on the math section, I failed. I'm dyslexic. I didn't know that at the time. I found out after, like way after. I didn't. I spent my whole life being told by teachers, especially math teachers, "Oh, you're just too stupid. Move on." And so I didn't know that I was dyslexic, but I my math section on the ASVAB was like really low because I'm bad at math even now. And so and then a year later, because you got to wait a year, I did the Army ASVAB, and I think their scores are like you had to like it's lower to get in, and I got higher scores on every section, but the math was like almost like really low, and they just same thing where they were just basically like, well, they themselves didn't say, no, you're too stupid to join the military. They were just like, oh, maybe you can try again in this long. They actually were pretty good about it. It's the people in my life that were, especially like some of the teachers I still knew because it was a small town. They were like, see, I told you you're too stupid to do anything. That's what they do is they just like because you can't do a test and you can't do like you were saying like standardized test or like the ASVAB because you fail at that. Oh, you're a garbage person. You're not going to amount to anything. You can't do anything, and
Yeah,
it all comes
speaking of
it.
American propaganda.
Oh yeah, it comes back to what we're talking about. I'm glad. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going off subject. Get back on subject. Nope. We we decided to center it on the education system, but this all comes back to. I'm like, I'm talking about the military now. It's like, no, that is. I wanted to touch on that too at some point. But like, oh, I was about to hit something, and then okay, so have we talked about I know we haven't talked about the military in this recording, but in the past, have we talked about it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because we've talked about so much already. It's like we should just start recording every one of our conversations, because I think every one of our conversations could be a podcast episode in itself. But you're so fun to talk to, talk with, and but like, okay, so I did a post on Facebook a few years ago. It made a lot of people angry because people misinterpreted it. They said, "Why do you hate the military?" Blah blah blah. They fought for they died for your right to say those things. Because I don't hate the military. We know we need the military for obvious reasons. But what I was saying, my post, I was basically talking about a specific group of people who joined the military. I know people that I went to high school with who were like the jock douchebags, I'm in charge of everyone, alpha male people, who they went into the military for the power, and it just corrupted them even further. And they come out and they're even worse. I know like a lot of people, especially where I'm from in Texas. Oh yeah, you're in Texas too. I keep forgetting that. But yeah, like they basically worship the military. And if someone, I've known people who they'll wear their fatigues out in public, they'll make it known they're in the military, and then like, oh, I can't afford this. I guess I'm not going to eat. Oh, that's okay. I'll get it. Thank you for your service. And they take full advantage of that because they know that people basically worship the military, which, I mean, I get it to an extent, but like when people like that take advantage of that, like, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. You
Okay,
want to know
because
what? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was clearing my throat. You couldn't tell whenever you were talking. I turned the mic off and I kept clearing my throat.
You want to know what like blows my mind about the military?
Go ahead.
That the VA is not in the military budget.
What?
Yeah. It blows my mind. And it makes me so angry because it's like it's like, how in the don't talk to me about supporting the troops and like being there for your vet and like being there for veterans when they cannot get adequate health care, when they cannot get what they need as soon when they come back, or when they're done with their service. Don't even talk to me about supporting the troops or being part of the military or anything like that when the VA is not part of the military budget. And the reason that they say it is because it would be too expensive. Don't talk to me about that. Like, come on.
Our military has the largest budget of any military in the world.
I know.
Like, I think I saw a chart
and we
one
can't
time.
find money for these people to take care of them when they're back and like done.
I think I saw a chart somewhere. It says that our military budget is so big. It's if you combine all the military budgets for every other country in the world, combine ours is still higher than that.
Yeah, for the next 26 countries in the United States. What am I talking about? But no, so like the United States is number one for like the military budget, and then if you combine the next 26 countries together, it still wouldn't equal the amount of money that the United States spends on its military. But the VA is not part of that.
It's not important. See, what I've noticed is that like while they're in the military and fighting over there, I mean, I get why people feel the way they do, because like I signed up twice. I tried twice to get in the military, but like I didn't realize, I just did it because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what I was raised being told. Like, you graduate, you join the military, you get a job, get a wife, have a kid, raise a family, retire and die. And so that I'm just doing what I was told that's what you're supposed to do. But like I wouldn't actually do it because I know people that are over there now, or not now, but like they were over there and they were like, it's scary. Like it is not for the faint of heart. Like they are like the people who like willingly go there knowing what they're getting into, like they are brave. Like I'm not putting them down. Um and so like while people are over there, like they're basically worshipped, which there's like a certain level where it's like, yeah, I appreciate them and like support the troops, but then it gets down to like straight up worship of the military. And like and they throw them in your face. Like if you a lot of people, like if you say something that you just that if you say something that people disagree with, they'll throw the military in your face. Well, just remember that we've got troops that died for your ability to say that. It's like, okay. And then but then like you were saying, like once they're veterans, San Francisco has a very high homeless population. And I'm based on the camouflage on some of them, I'm pretty sure a lot of them are former military.
Oh yeah. It would not surprise me.
And that
And
is
we don't
pretty
take
messed
care of
up.
them.
Exactly. That's kind of what you were talking about. And that's like we worship them while they're over there, like when they're actually like over there, like I'm still trying to like I know like you know what I'm talking about, but I'm in the mindset of like this is being recorded, and there's people that like if you say anything other than all hail the mighty military, then they'll like you hate the military. Like no, so I'm trying to word things better. Like in other countries, they see America as like a machine gun toting bald eagle shooting rockets with American flag waving behind it, and that's like
Jeez.
that's America. That's America. And but like that's other countries like the British flag. Like, do you ever really see the British flag? Like whenever like you see like people like in Britain, like they see like their houses and stuff. Do you see like the British flag painted on everything? They're wearing the British flag or the Union Jack, I think it's called. I think I have a bunch of friends in the UK. I think they said what everyone sees as the British flag is actually like is like meant for something. Like they have like multiple flags and they use it for like I didn't research this. I want to go out in here and say I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not an
Fair.
expert. I'm taking a note. I'm taking a leaf out of Karen and George's book, My Favorite Murder. I'm not an expert. This is just two friends talking.
I totally agree. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's like
the OGs really though. The OGs really with like the propaganda and the like the worshiping of the flag would be like the British military, like the OGs. I mean, they literally conquered the world. Like this little bitty island literally conquered the entire world, and they still have like a foothold in a lot of different places. And I mean, yeah, the OGs for real.
yeah, and they say the sun doesn't set in the British Empire. I don't know if that's
Yeah, and it
still
didn't
because
for a
like
really long time.
it's not as wide as it was. I think like they're loosening up on that. I think like now that the queen's about to die soon, she's trying to like make amends for some of her regrets. Yeah. And so like I think over the last few years she's like given like she's quote unquote given some of these places back their independence. So like we no longer you're your own people now. Okay, that's like the bare minimum. That's like I mean it's good that they're doing that, that she's doing that, but it's like at the same time it's like it reminds me of like it's like a Trump supporter now saying, you know what, I think that guy might not be that great after all. It's like, yeah, you're late. You don't get credit for
Just late
real.
to the party.
Yeah, you don't really get credit for discovering that years 6 years after we all knew it.
That's another American flag. Like to me, that's like has never to me. Like and even like so in schools, like in the United States, here in the United States, we have something called the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's exactly what it sounds like. You pledge allegiance to a flag, to a piece of fucking cloth. You pledge allegiance to it. And
Mm.
it's very propaganda oriented, and we teach this is what we teach. It's like one of the first things that we teach our children in school is the pledge allegiance to the flag. And then if you live in any other state that was like so Texas, we also have like a Texas flag, like
One Republic. I remember that. Wait, Abigail?
when it works.
Okay, so sorry about that. If you notice, I still don't know where I'm gonna put the edit at, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna leave a little bit of the glitching effect, so you know something was going on. But the signal completely dropped, and we had to end the call, and now we're back. Abigail's in a better spot, not only because there's a better signal, but now you can actually see her better. So that's always a plus. So anyway, continuing where we left off, it kind of glitched off when we were talking about the Pledge of Allegiance, which is something I was hoping to talk on too, but I forgot about it. I'm glad you brought it up. But since that's the spot where it started to glitch, can you start over what you were saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, I'm really sorry, you guys. That was completely my fault. I'm in the middle of nowhere, Texas, so my signal is like super, just like bad.
Totally understand.
But yeah, so in the United States, we have something called the Pledge of Allegiance, where we start teaching children what that is at a very young age, starting, I believe, in like kindergarten. And you basically put your hand your
It's I don't know if you can hear me right now, but you're glitching like really bad right now. Hello?
Oh no.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. I think it's talking about the pledge because it happened when you were talking about the pledge before, and then you start talking about the pledge. We were fine until you start talking about the pledge, and it happened at the same spot. So maybe we skip that subject.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the FBI is like coming to take us. Oh my goodness.
I'm probably gonna leave some of that in.
I'll just keep going. We're just gonna keep going.
Wait a second. I just thought of something.
So you have that when you were in school?
I couldn't understand you just then.
Okay, I'm gonna try it with my video off and see if that helps.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I think that was part of the issue. So, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you can't see you're nasty. I see Pixie. I'm thinking Pixie. You can't see Abbott. You can't see Pixie. Crap. You can't see her anymore.
The wonders of living in the boonies.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we did have the I almost said you did have the Manic Pixie Wierdo in school. We did have, I'm being distracted by your name. I'm gonna look up. We had the Pledge of Allegiance when I went to school, and around sophomore year of high school, I started to realize, hey, this is kind of a creepy concept, pledging allegiance. And I that's when I started to have kind of like a disillusionment around that time. Like I not to the extent I later had after school, and I realized everything we taught was a lie, but it's kind of like I don't really like what we're doing kind of thing. Like I don't know if it was like a rebellious thing, it's like just because like the country could have been fine, and I'm just like I don't like it because it's authority. I don't know my mindset at the time. I just know that I stopped saying the pledge. Sometimes I would stand when everyone else would. Sometimes I would stay seated, but yeah, there was a couple of times where teachers did throw the veterans in my face. This one kind of older teacher, he got kind of emotional. He was like, well, I'll have you know that my father, my grandfather, my da 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 da, they died so that you can have that the freedom to be as disrespectful as you are right now. That sort of thing.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's like, well, and I'm sure they'll love the fact that you're using them like this.
Oh, right. That always like baffles me when people like try to throw it back in your face, and like people use it as like it's almost like virtue signaling in a way.
Yes, and it's like with that Kavanaugh, that's the Supreme Court nominee thingy, the Kaepernick
Yeah,
something.
Kaepernick, I think.
Kaepernick, I'm not into sports. I know he's a football player. I don't know what his team is or whatever, but he kneeled, and everybody was like, he hates this. He hates the military, and that became a big thing. And everyone's like, "You disrespected the military," and everyone's like, made it. And the reason he did that was to protest police brutality, but everyone made it about hating the military, but no one actually stopped to listen to him. He actually um conf- he asked, he was like, I can't think of the word, not confide, but you know what I mean, like he basically asked some of the military people, like, what's the best way to protest this, and the military people themselves were saying kneel during the national anthem because people will notice.
Yeah, I mean it's the
So
whole thing. But what I can't understand about the Kaepernick thing is that, like, why is he public enemy number one when he takes a knee at a football game? But then things that like are so clearly against the interest of the country are just like swept under the rug and um, just like not even discussed, like Blackwater, for example.
yes, like there is, hang on, there is something I want to address right here that I saw a post of, and I forgot her name. Leah Thomas is that trans woman who was at the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a post that it was her next to I forget his name. I don't want to remember his name. Oh, rapist Brock Turner. And someone posted a picture of the two of them and said, "Why is the swimmer on the left more offensive than the swimmer on the right?" Uh, yeah, people still call him like swimmer Brock Turner's athlete. They call him like stuff like that. No, if I ever talk about him, I say rapist Brock Turner because
Yeah.
that's what he is. And they gave him a light sentence because, oh, it's gonna ruin his life. Like, what about the girl? What about the girl that behind the dumpster? And but then nobody bats an eye about that. But then that trans woman went to medal. She's ruining sports. She should be banned. She's horrible.
Yeah, it's just backwards. It's just like so upside down.
And it's, yeah, like something you were kind of getting at, and like why they go after some things but not others, because it's quote unquote safe to go after those. Because if they go after the other things, then they have to look inward, and they don't want to do that.
Exactly. And that, and I do think that there is a certain element to that where it's like we need to examine those things. We need to sort of turn this inward and examine those things and see, and like give it a serious examination. Like, why am I taking, the other thing too is like, don't take things super personally. Like it's not always about you as an individual. Like sometimes
Yes.
it's about like a bigger thing than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, like I'm starting to really hate the word all, and you know why.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness.
All, yeah, all lives matter. Stop all hate. No, I say, people say Black Lives Matter or Stop Asian Hate. The people on that side love to go, all lives matter. Stop all hate, not just Asian hate. No, yeah, it's safer to say that because it sounds good. Yes, stop all hate. All lives do matter. But if you actually stop and listen to what we have to say, what they have to say, then you realize it's bigger than that. It's more than just saying, "Oh, all lives matter, everything's good now," because we agree, all lives matter, yay. It's like, but which lives matter to you?
Right. Exactly.
Yes, then George Floyd gets brutally, he gets murdered by a cop on camera. Oh well, he was selling drugs. He must have been a criminal. The cop wouldn't have done that unless he had a reason. It's like, no, he definitely did not have a reason. He was convicted. I'm so glad he was convicted. Literally,
Right.
when he was on trial, I literally was rolling my eyes every time I saw it trending. I'm like, we know he's going to get off. Why are we doing this again? And then he got convicted. I was watching it live. I'm just kind of like, all right, let's get this over with. Guilty. Like, what? Oh, I thought things are finally going to change. And then they pat themselves on the back and just everything went back to the way it was.
I know. And it's like crumbs. It's like we get crumbs for, all of these things. And it's like it felt very like performative at that point. It felt very much like they were just
Exactly.
throwing people a bone and just like they knew that they couldn't get away with this one incident, but so they like had to do something. But when it comes down to like brass tacks, like nothing changed.
Yeah, like mid 2020 when all the protests were going on, all these companies, they sounded like things are finally going to change, and they're like, we're going to step up and we're going to take an active part. It's like, yes, okay, Mrs. Butterworth is canceled. Wait, what? And Uncle Ben, he's canceled too. That's not what we were talking about.
Right.
And then
Right. Exactly.
they like did that. I can't remember what that's called.
Wash
Just
their hands of it.
yes, and then
Yeah.
they're like, "We did good. All right, now, it's like no. That's what I like is now it's Pride Month now, and so
Hmm.
it's that time of the year where every brand account changes their profile picture to rainbow, and they start selling rainbow merchandise, which I know it's good that they're it's kind of a two-edged sword or there, like maybe that's the wrong word. You know what I mean? Like it's good they're acknowledging it, but it's not enough just to sell a like rainbow hat or whatever. Then you got Target on the other hand. We need more people like Target, which I know you and I like we keep jokingly saying, yeah, because capitalism, or we make fun of it, but Target's doing something that you don't see other people do. The other big companies, they're actually doing more than just selling rainbow stuff. I was there a few months ago and they were selling chest binders, which is huge.
Oh.
Yes, I saw that and I took a picture. I have a friend of mine who is a trans guy, and I sent that to him, and he's sent me back crying emojis. Like, where is that? And I was like, Target, and they was just sending more crying emojis. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need more, not rainbow merchandise.
Yeah, we need more, LGBTQA plus like um support and all of these things. I mean, they're coming for us, you guys. They're coming for us. After Roe v. Wade is overturned, which we all know it's gonna get
Yeah,
overturned. I mean, what's going to stop them from going after gay rights? What's going to stop them from, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So, like, we need all the support that we can get. Everybody does.
And going back to the propaganda thing, I mean, it's staying in the same subject, but kind of changing the direction toward propaganda. That you can create propaganda by phrasing things a certain way. So, we're pro-choice, but they're pro-life, which sounds great. Of course, we're pro-life. We want life. Life is good, but whose life? It's not really pro-life. It's more like anti-choice.
Pro birth.
There's pro-choice and anti-choice. There's no pro-life.
Yeah. Pro life. I believe it's pro birth.
Pro-birth. Yeah, there we go. I like that. That's a better way to phrase it. I see. This is what happens when we're unscripted. Well, I don't think I'm not speak good. You know what I mean?
Me either. Me either. Totally. I totally know what you mean. But yeah, that's another way that propaganda gets there. It's just there's so much propaganda all around us constantly. And it's really, really like once your eyes are open to all the different propaganda that like just is everywhere, because it's literally everywhere. But once your like eyes are open to it, it's kind of like you can't unsee it.
Yeah, it started out small for me. Like, I started researching like as while I was in high school, like near the end of my high school time, I wanted to read more about like founding of the country, and I've read more. There's so many legendary stories about like I think everybody know now that the cherry tree never happened. That everyone knows that never happened. But then like so many other things never happened too. Like um like Paul Revere, like, the British are coming, the British are coming.
Oh, that wasn't him. You know who that was?
Who?
My grandfather, my great 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 grandfather.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Dr. Samuel Prescott, he was actually the one that took the message to the Minutemen that said that the British were coming.
See
He
the
rode with Paul Revere.
nice.
Yeah, that's a little bit of American history that I found out when I was a kid.
But then the when I was doing the research into like the actual truth into like
It's
this,
also possible that's wrong.
well, yeah, so like what I have been finding is that that didn't happen the way that we were told, because this was a British colony, remember? The British were already here.
Right.
So like how can the British be coming if this is where the British were?
I mean, that's fair.
And then like that's just one thing. I saw that and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. And then like the more I learned, the more I realized that everything we learned was false. And then like the big moment that made me realize, holy crap, people are blind to this, was Pearl Harbor. The way I was taught, the way I'm pretty sure you were taught, and everyone listening to this in America was taught, was the Japanese attacked completely unprovoked. They had no reason to attack us. We were poor, innocent America, and they just came and they were mean and they bombed us. But then I watched a BBC documentary that changed my life. And it turns out like they weren't, it wasn't like an expose thing, like here's the truth of what really happened. It was just the BBC telling the story. This is how the rest of the world tells the Pearl Harbor story. The truth is, it wasn't unprovoked. The US had an embargo on Japan and the Philippines, and Japan, they did that to stop more ships from going out there. So
That makes sense.
That's the reason Pearl Harbor happened. It, like, because it did kind of confuse me growing up. Like, why would that, just so random? Like, there was nothing between us. From what you look back and read, and they knew that. Like like people at top, they knew that's the reason, but they wanted to go to war, so they left that detail out.
Of course.
So it's like people wanted to go to war. They're like, okay, I guess we have no choice. We're going to war. And so like I found that out, and I was shocked and a bit excited. I'm like, oh wow, this is cool. And then so I went to go tell people, and people started getting mad. They're like, oh, you're listening to you're being brainwashed by the British. Of course they want to make us look bad. And it's like, they're one of our closest allies. And that's literally the only time I've ever heard my grandfather swear.
For real though.
That's literally the only time I've ever heard my grandfather swear. I told him about that with Pearl Harbor, and he yelled, "That is bullshit."
Oh my gosh.
And so that's when I realized that people don't want to actually hear the truth.
Yeah, because it's really hard. It's really hard. I've noticed that it's really hard for some people to like hear the truth and like that part, that's something that like my brain doesn't understand, because like I didn't come with that part, just like unshielded loyalty kind of a thing. Like my
Yeah.
brain just like didn't, like I just didn't come with that part. And so
Hmm.
it like, and I feel like you didn't either. And so
Yeah.
I think for people like us, it's very confusing and very frustrating when like we're trying to teach people about like, you find out like these cool history facts about like, oh, actually, that's not what happened. And then people just sort of try and shut you down because like that, like I'm just a naturally curious person. And so like I want to know, like I just want to know the truth, like what actually happened. And if that means that like it's not actually true that my great great grandfather didn't really take the message to the Minutemen, then I would not be shocked if that was not true. Like if somebody right now like emailed your podcast and was like, actually, it wasn't, like that's not what happened, I would be like, that totally, like that tracks, because we've been lied to about everything else. So why not that too?
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but whenever you were talking about that, like your grandfather was that, I kind of hesitated because I was getting ready to say, "Oh, that didn't happen the way it was written." You said it, I kind of hesitated, like, should I tell her this? And then you said it might not even happen. I'm like, oh, okay, then I'll just say
Yeah, totally, exactly. Like I'm
it.
open, I'm totally open to it not being true, because
Yeah,
at this point it's probably not.
yeah. So you and I, like you were saying, like we're different. Like it's gonna sound like, oh, we're special. We're not like other people, but like in a way, yeah, kind of, but like not in the way that that sounds. So like you and I seek out the truth, and everyone else hides from it.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it. And I
Like,
think that I do think it's getting better though. Like I do think that there are a lot of people more that are like willing to have their eyes open, especially like in the millennial generation and in younger generations. I feel like it's becoming much more eye-opening, and like people are more open and like willing to accept like that it's not all true.
yeah, it's like people. I remember growing up, people would blindly believe everything the government said. Like my family and everybody was just like, the government says it's true, so it has to be true. Don't doubt the government because they know what's best for us. They're not going to lead us astray. And now, like, I don't know that many people that trust the government.
I know, right?
They definitely tried to separate us with, like you were talking earlier about the separating us into groups and stuff, and something I have noticed that with, like with political parties, you notice with, like with the Trump supporters, that became a thing, like having like Trump supporter, like that is a thing, Trump supporter, but like you don't see Biden supporter. And then I have a bunch of Trump supporter friends who are like, see, they use that against Biden, like, see, he doesn't have supporters because you don't hear people say Biden supporters. It's like, no, because he doesn't have a cult formed around him.
And that's really kind of what it has become. Like the political parties have really kind of become like cults in their own way.
Yeah, I did have TikTok on my TikTok long ago when I was at working at the convenience store that I was telling you about. There was, because that was in Trump territory in Ohio. There were, like, everyone there's Trump supporters. There was a Trump rally in our parking lot. They weren't supposed to be there. And even corporate called, they could see the camera, like, hey, tell them they have to leave. But then the manager was like, he was a huge supporter. He supported QAnon, but he claimed he wasn't one. He's like, I just like their ideas. And he was the manager there that day. And he goes, no, they're not hurting anyone. But like, oh, they were. Because one of the coworkers there was black, and he was getting so uncomfortable
Oh my
because
goodness.
on one of the trucks right in front of our door, there was a pickup truck decked out entirely in Trump stuff. There were like 6 American flags like hanging off this thing, like sticking out the windows and everything. And it's like, if that's not a cult, I don't know what it is.
Absolutely. Like that's,
It's like,
well, yeah, go
I
ahead. Sorry.
I I'm not ashamed to say I voted for Biden, not because I like him or I love him or I agree with everything he says. I literally only voted for him because he wasn't Trump. And
Same.
I don't like Biden. I never liked him. He was the better of the two evils. There was evil, and then just there was. It's like voting. It's like I don't know. And so like because I was open about voting for Biden, the people on the Trump side that are on my friends list assume that I have the same loyalty towards Biden as they do for their leader. And so like if Biden does something stupid, they'll be like, here's your president. I'm like, yeah, that was stupid that he did that. Like, so you admit that he's not a good president. Like, I never said he was. So Trump's your president. Like, no, it's neither. It's either for them.
It's
It's
not
like
black and white like that.
yes, yeah, and it's okay. So like, Trump was extreme. I was gonna say far extreme one direction. Biden is far extreme the other direction, and that's what we don't need that. We need someone in the middle. An extreme center, if you will.
Extreme center.
It's like a weights faster type thing. We need that. Someone who's like not okay, there's gonna be bias no matter what. But someone who because like Biden is biased. I don't like him. Everyone is biased, but like because he is so that's why I think we need to get an independent in there because we're not going to do that. There's not much difference between the two big parties, and that's why we need like a third party thing. There, people are saying, "Oh yeah, the independents they have a chance to win." That's because they're on the ballots. Yes, they're on the ballots, but how many candidates are in the debates at the end? There'll be 4 candidates on the ballot.
Exactly.
There'll be 4 candidates on the ballot for president, but only 2 of them up there debating.
I know. It's just a mess, man. And I mean, it's just a mess. It's all a mess. It's just, that's why there's a part of me that's like, it's a page 1 rewrite. Like, we just got to start over.
Yeah, we do. We need to start from scratch. And especially since the fact that like so many people, especially like the far right people, they look to like the literal words of the Constitution and say, "Oh, we can't do this because the Constitution says it." Like that one justice who says that I'm going to keep abortion illegal because this thing that was said in the 1600s. It's like that was what, like 600 years ago, 700 years ago. I'm not good at mathing, but yeah, like if you were referencing a piece of like an article written in 50 years ago, I'd say that was out of date. This is 700 years ago. There is no way that's even relevant to now. Why are you making major decisions like that based on that?
I mean, yeah, it's very, I'm not saying that like all of our ideas were bad ones. Like, yes. I think that we have some rules that like we should keep, like don't sexually assault people. That's a good rule. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we should keep that rule. That's a great rule to keep and like to have. But like there are a lot of other things as well that are just like bad rules. Like the fact that the police aren't actually there to protect you. Like that's, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like that, not great, you guys, not good.
Yeah. You were saying earlier that like some people like they threw those kind of the laws in there to like, I forgot the wording you said, but like it sounds good. So like the rest must be good. Like don't murder anybody, don't sexually assault people, don't do this, don't do that. Like, yeah, that's like someone that's like they want a pat on the back or a parade because they said racism is bad. Like no, like that is basic human like knowledge, like
decency. Yeah,
decency. Yes, like you shouldn't be celebrated for saying racism is bad or like I don't like rape. Like pedophiles deserve to like rot in jail or whatever, or just rot in a hole or something. Like you don't deserve a pat on the back or a parade. That's basic. That's if you just now coming to that realization, like I don't know what to tell you. It's like, that's not a revelation.
And this is why I think common sense should be labeled a superpower.
Yes, we have common sense.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. And I've worked retail for so many years. I can tell you, people don't have common sense, especially the older people. Like you were saying, like, okay, so like they say like the older people, like they're not qualified to do like a whole bunch of stuff. Like if they're reached a certain age and they can't do this, can't do that, but why are they almost exclusively running the country?
Right. Exactly.
And they're also the ones that, like, I can tell you, you've worked retail, right? I think we've talked about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I think we've shared some of our horror stories about like
Oh yeah.
boomers in retail, and I've very, very rarely have had a negative encounter with someone like closer to our age. Almost
Mm-hmm.
all of the experiences were older people. In fact, like the stereotype of, um, like, okay, here's an analogy I saw. Like, if okay, so that's you're walking down the middle of a street and you got to choose this sidewalk or that sidewalk, and walking up one sidewalk is a middle-aged white guy, and walking up, he's a suit and tie and he looks presentable, and then on coming up the other sidewalk is a black guy with chains and tattoos and a muscle shirt. Which street are you going to walk up? Honestly, the black guy, because I working in retail for years, I'm more afraid of older white people.
I agree.
I I
I mean, I
honestly,
prefer to be alone if I'm being completely honest.
I would just keep walking up the
But
center of the. I agree. I would just keep walking up the center of the street, especially if there's no cars are going to come to the center of the street. If you're walking down the yellow, you're fine. But like, yeah, like there's the stereotype of like, oh, these black people are evil and thugs, but like I'm not like, I don't like blanket statements like, oh, all black people are nice, but like generally that's been my experience. It's been white people that I've been afraid of.
well, it's the fear mongering, you know?
Yeah, it's the way that they try to set the like brainwashing propaganda. Yeah, it comes back full circle.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. We planned this.
It's all roads lead back to American propaganda.
Yes, it does.
I mean, I just don't like, is it that hard to be nice to people?
Yeah,
Like, is it really that difficult? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like to quote Charlton Heston in the movie we don't like to talk about from 2001, which I'm going to say this one time and try not to throw up in my mouth. Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, almost threw up in my mouth. Charlton Heston said, "Can't we all just get along?" And I hate that it comes from that movie because it's the only good thing that comes from it. And but it's true.
I mean,
it's true. Yeah. Okay, I witnessed something last night, and I haven't told anybody, and it's kind of traumatic. And I will have to say trigger warning to the people listening, and even to you. Like, are you okay with domestic violence? Wait, okay,
yeah,
don't. I probably shouldn't have worded it like.
No, I know what you mean. I'm not okay with domestic violence. Like, I definitely am not like, go domestic violence. Like, yeah, no. Like, and I don't think, again, another good rule, like, don't do that.
Okay, that's going to be soundbited for sure. Like, I'm okay with domestic violence. Okay, so I was on the bus home, and this couple gets on, and already it was a guy and some girl, and she's already crying when they get on the bus. They sit in the back. They're like, I'm like 5 feet away from them. I don't know what happened. I just know she's crying. I don't know what happened. For all I know, someone just died. So I just know she's crying. And he's speaking to her like but he's like in her ear, like only she can hear it, and she's just kind of cringe it, like kind of like shrinks down, like to make herself look smaller. I don't know what's happened between them, but he starts slapping her, and she's like trying to like put her arms up
In public?
on the bus, and she like puts her arms up to defend herself, and he's just like slapping her. And at the next stop, the bus driver stops her, "You two off." And I would have just kicked him off because I felt so bad for her. Like I wanted her to stay on and get away from him, but the bus driver kicked them both off.
Oh
Like,
my goodness.
and so like,
what has the world come to?
And the reason I bring that up is like because I've been in an abusive relationship, and I know friends who are in an abusive relationship, and my thought is, how hard is it to just not abuse your partner? Like,
apparently it can be very difficult sometimes. Apparently,
like,
I mean, you would think that it would be super easy not to do it, like, but
if you
apparently it's not.
Like, if you love this person that you claim to be with, like you claim to love and you're with, like, why are you slapping her? Why are you making her cry? Like, you should be the one comforting her when she's crying.
I mean,
like
again.
And so, like,
people suck.
Yes, they do. And that comes back. The reason I bring that up is, again, like, how hard is it to not be abusive? How hard is it to just not be racist or not be homophobic or not be whatever? It's just, it's like you have to go out of your way to do these things.
I know what you're saying. I just think that like it really all begins with education.
You do, but the audience probably will find. I know people that try to find cracks in what you say.
Oh, of course. But guess what, you guys? I'm not perfect. I answered a question without thinking, I answered the question that you asked me about domestic violence without even thinking. Like, that was a total my bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't think about it because I knew what you meant. Like, obviously I'm not for domestic violence, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I just quickly, but so, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's as long as you like, it's progress. Like, I caught myself and I was like, oh, okay. And like, you caught it. Like, and I'm totally open to like constructive criticism. What I'm not open to is when people are just being mean.
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're just being blatantly mean, that's like, but if you actually have something constructive to say and like you want to point out something that like I did wrong and a mistake that I made, absolutely go for it. Like, I'm all ears. I'm totally willing, because I know I'm not perfect, and I'm totally willing to like adapt and change. And I really, but that's part of the education. That's part of what it means to be to educate yourself and your peers and, the people around you and like, and your kids, like that. It all goes back to education. That's where it starts. That's why I think it was a good place for us to start, was with the education, with like propaganda, because that's where it all begins. And that's also where it all ends too, is the education, because once you stop learning, then I mean, you're kind of done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, again, going back to the space, I'm glad we had that space before we talked, because like, it's kind of like a primer for this. And like, kind of like, we're always constantly learning and growing. Like, I'm glad like Marcy said the stuff that she said, because like I hadn't even thought of it like the way she said it. I was like, as she was talking, I'm like, I never thought of it from that perspective.
Oh yeah, but that's good though. That's good.
Exactly. Yes.
Part of your, it's part of the education.
Exactly. I know. Like, 10 years ago, I probably would have gotten all upset, because like I did when people started calling me out on stuff like 10 years ago, longer ago. Like, I think like the first time it happened was in like 2010. Someone started calling me out because I was posting stuff. Like, I was very open online about like my views and stuff, and people started calling me out, and I would get all defensive and angry. And if she had said that back then, I would have probably like blocked her or something. But now I went like, no, call me out on stuff. I want to learn and grow. I want to get past this.
Exactly.
Because like it isn't malicious. I don't like you and I like when like because again we're not perfect. We're not doing stuff maliciously, and if you call us out, we're going to fix it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I will be the first person to tell you that like I don't know everything. I'm really good at pretending like I know everything, but I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know anything.
that's why earlier that's why
The longer I'm on planet Earth, the more I understand how much of an idiot I am.
I don't know what I don't know. It's like that's why earlier I was like, we're not experts. We're just two friends talking.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't know what we're talking about. We only know our own experiences.
Right. And let's be perfectly honest, we're two white people that have a very different lived experience than anybody who's like a minority. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Okay. So like another thing I haven't talked about in this episode, I'm trying to avoid bringing it up until the episode. The episode I told you about, that the last episode of this that
Mm-hmm.
remember you said, "Oh yeah, I'll do that one." Oh no, I'm telling you what it's about. I don't want you to in it because there would be two white people talking about an Asian experience. I want a
Yeah, and that did not occur to me. And then the minute you said it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot." Of course.
No, and now I just called you out on the podcast. No, sorry. No, but yeah, like
it's totally fine.
That's what like I want someone who either experienced it themselves or has family who experienced it for that reason. Because
and you know what? I totally get it. I'm not offended at all. In fact, I feel bad and I feel like I was being offensive and I'm super sorry.
Yeah, because I I get it. Like we're still learning and growing. Like, but like I I also don't want this to sound like we're two people saying racism is bad. It's like
right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, we need a parade. Where's our statue? We said racism is bad. We deserve a plaque at the least.
Right. Give me an award. Don't give me it. Don't do it.
Not for this.
Not for just blatantly stating the most obvious things on planet Earth.
Do you know Philip DeFranco?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know it, but
I know what you mean. There was one time he did something funny on his show. He went, "I'm gonna say something revolutionary, and this might be a new thought that's never been said before, but racism is bad." And he had like edits and stuff where like banners were coming down and like hero of the year. It's as a joke, obviously, but it was so funny because there's some people that have that mindset. Like
yeah, totally.
I have seen people put like BLM in their bio, but then they're like also posting like very not BLM positive stuff. So like some people, I think it's kind of like with brands just changing their logo to rainbow. Like they don't know what it means. They know it's popular to do it. So it's like people will look fondly on me if I say Black Lives Matter. So yeah. It's like, what does it mean to say Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter. But why? Because all lives not crap.
Right. Again, with the all.
I hate the word all.
Thank you. Right. No, thank you. Sorry, I'm getting something to drink. Hold on.
So am I. Oh, you can see me.
I can see you, but you can't. Sorry.
Good thing I wasn't doing anything embarrassing. Here, let me turn the mic off and blow my nose. She'll never know.
What was I going to say? I don't even remember. I lost it. I don't know what I was going to say. I lost it. I'm sorry.
You're having a senior moment. You're not even a senior.
I am, though. I'm so old. I'm like 4,000 years old, you guys. It's a nightmare.
How old
I'm either
are you?
7. I'm either 7 or I'm 4,000 years old. There's really no in between.
You are 30.
I am 29. You were very close.
Well, because you said 93 and Emery is, and they were about to. Oh yeah, that's right. You're out. Never mind. I should probably edit out Emery's age there. But anyway, you think you're ancient because you're 29. I had 2 weeks ago. I turned 38. I mean, yeah, no, 34.
Well, happy birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Well, I don't ever make a big deal about it. Here's the thing, though. People ask me how old I am, and I have to think about it.
Oh, I do too. I'm so bad with that stuff.
It's like, they think I'm joking. They're like, oh, how old did you turn? I'm like, 34.
Really do the math.
Yeah, I was like, I literally like 88. I was 10 in 98, and so 20 in 2008. 2018, I was 30. So a friend of mine, when I told him I was 34, said, "You're older than Jesus."
Technically,
thanks for that.
Oh my God, my headphones are gonna die. Shoot.
No, I just thought of something. Like one of my coworkers, she's 15. She's one of my favorite coworkers, and we
Uh-oh. I can't hear you.
lesson you heard.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
What's
You
the
cut
last
out
thing?
for a second.
What's the last thing you heard?
That was the last thing I heard.
Oh, did you hear me say that she was singing "I Want It That Way"?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the farthest in that story that you got?
That was as far as I got.
No, okay, she told me that. I'm just gonna start it over.
Okay.
All right, so she's singing "I Want It That Way" along with the song, and I'm like, "Oh, you know the song?" And she goes, "Yeah, my mom listened to it. My mom listened to them when she was a little girl." And I went, "Oh."
Oh, I feel so old.
I know. There's something I love to say because it makes them hurt physically. You know the song "Call Me Maybe"?
Yes.
It came out over a decade ago. January 2012.
We don't talk about that. Nope. We're just not gonna talk about
it. Also, when Friday by Rebecca Black came out, she had just turned 13. Now, actually, hang on. Hey Google, how old is Rebecca Black?
Rebecca Black is 24 years old.
Oh my God.
That's fun. I love that. I mean, I hate it, but I love it at the same time.
Right.
Good times. Existential dread, the usual.
For real.
Yeah, so this guy I went to high school with, he posted a selfie on Facebook about a year ago, and he had some gray in his beard, and I was like, nope, I don't like that.
Nope, not for me. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, we should probably wrap up this part of the podcast because we still have a whole other episode to record today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all right. So Abigail, in conclusion, what are your takeaways from all of this?
Just be nice to people. And also American propaganda sucks. And just be cautious about what you learn and like what you're teaching. Like don't think that you have like all the answers kind of a thing.
Okay, so before I stop this recording, that was the concluding thing you wanted to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to end the episode here. Say bye, Abigail, for another 5 minutes.
Bye.
Have a good.